Hey there, welcome to CNT Collectibles. I am C, and this is your weekly sports card chart blast, where we take a look at the price action of our favorite collectibles. And again, not advice, just what I'm seeing. We're just having some fun here, so we'll take a look at the indices, some individual players that are moving within respective sports, some individual players again, and we'll wrap it up with some real world stuff if you want to see how that correlates to the card market overall. Let's get after it. Sports Card Investor Index. All right, I have a question for people that use market movers here. Actually, so when I did most of these charts, I had a nice blue trend line, sales line or whatever, and come back the next day and it's light gray. It's like, can I change that? What happened? I can barely see this thing. So anyway, so I found it kind of annoying. Maybe it's a one-off or whatever, but if there's a way to fix it, please let me know. Sports Cards Index down 1.8% for the week. Real world markets picking up a little bit of steam. We've looked at that in the past and said, hey, listen, this is where if we're in for real trouble, then we're halfway done, and if we're in for like regular trouble, like we've seen a couple times in the past decade, then this should be close enough to a bottom, and the markets are behaving accordingly. But the sports card markets, not so much. So I think we need to get some confidence in the real world quick, to that consumer confidence, and then perhaps that'll translate over to our cardboard stuff here. So we're looking at the baseball risers, and they have it set. So I'm going to make a point here about volume and volatility here. But we've got the top movers and shakers in the baseball card index, and the number of sales is set at minimum of 25 sales. Okay, so we have Bryce Harper leading the way with a ton of sales. He's up about 16%. He's super relevant. He's out in front, and that's not unexpected, right? So there's no hidden value to cards or anything like that. You melt them down, you burn them, they're worth zero. It's not like gold where you melt it down, you've got the price, and it's still gold, So there's a lot of things that have some internal value, but cards are not one of them. You melt them, and they turn to ash, and there's no residual value to that. So the only thing that you're getting is what someone else is willing to pay off of these things here. And so it comes from demand, and that comes from relevance. And so Bryce Harper, uber relevant at the time being here. Pete Alonso, for whatever reason, up 7%, not super relevant or whatever, but yeah, I do like that player and like to collect him, so I just see a little pop out of that name. Tony Gwynn and Don Mattingly, not relevant at the time being, but it's nice to see them getting some love. These are two of the greats here: Bo Bichette, Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Albert Pujols, all catching some love here. Now, let's say we switch that. We search that metric from 25 sales to 100 sales minimum in our scans overall, and we start to see Acuna, Soto, Vladdy, Wander, O'Neal Cruz, Fernando Tatis Jr. So these are the players that are currently relevant. But what we see as well is we don't see 20, 30% moves or anything like that. We do see it out of Harper. It's kind of a special case because he's front and center. But everybody else moving kind of in those single digits. The more volume you have, those spreads narrow quite a bit. So you like those more liquid markets if you're trying to get in and out or something like that and try and avoid the one-off. So anyways, a lot of modern guys moving in the higher volume area here, but they're mostly moving to the downside. So football, Randy Moss leading the way here. Daniel Jones, Tyreek Hill, Peyton Manning getting some love. Joey Burrow is the one that's getting the most attention with over $100,000 in sales and over $1,000 in cards getting moved over the past week here. Danny Marino and Sports Card Dad apparently bought 32 Drew Breeses last week here, but Joe Burrow. So what we like to see is the last couple of weeks he's been playing really, really well. He's broken that $2,000, $2,100 level of support. And he made a drop down to 1,200, so that's maybe too much too fast. The trend is down. Look for a pop, which would be worth selling. So we'll take a look at him a little bit closely later here. But we're getting that pop we were looking for out of Joey B here. Basketball, Kyrie, Jaren Jackson, Reggie Miller. So yeah, he put up like 8 points in 6 seconds, and he's still scoring today. So still relevant here. Your big movers and shakers are some more current players. Desmond Bain and Anthony Simons there. So if I'm reading that correctly here. So again, light gray. What's going on here, guys? Where's my nice readable blue? So Vince Carter getting some love as well. I like to see Vinsanity on the board. In hockey, not a lot of action going on here. So Kaprizov is one of your bigger movers, and he's one of the more relevant players here. So Connor McDavid off just a little bit. So we'll take a look at some hockey in a bit here as well. So all right, this week long-term Hall of Fame track. Who's on the pace, who has longer term relevance. Not that these cards can't lose money, but that at least holds some value over the longer term. Start off with the pitchers, and our number one long term target, of course, Clayton Kershaw, Hall of Famer at some point. Clayton Kershaw. So His cards continue to trend down, but he's at a juncture where buying has taken place in the past. You're starting to see a cluster of buy on this one here, so your risk reward sets up favorably in the near term. But while that trend is down, rips are for selling. I don't know that there's a catalyst that brings it all the way up to the top of the range, above $1,000 or anything like that. I'm not sure we see that anytime soon. When that did happen, you had kind of a mania, and then you had just a couple of people. And we know better. We like buying at the bottom of the range here, and you're getting into kind of this cluster of buying that happened in 2020 before everything went kind of nuts here. But again, that's grinding lower. So if you are looking at this longer term, maybe this is close enough to the spot. It's not that price isn't going to kill you for the most part if you want a nice gem example. But I think if you're patient and you have a longer term time frame, you look out a couple of years, you could sneak into that sub $500 range or something like that. So we'll see how that plays out. But I'm not looking for a 10, I'm looking for a 9. It might be close enough for me, like this player, Justin Verlander. $275 is kind of maybe your more ideal spot here. Super relevant, although last night didn't help him out a whole lot here, did it? So $350 for that PSA 10. So again, the trend is down. There's a lot of interest in his cards right now. Maybe better to wait until after the playoffs. Again, $350. Maybe we can get it closer to sub 300 at longer term. And from recent memory, at least is just above $200 or something like that. So we'll see how that plays out. But I think there's better prices to be had if you are patient. And Max Scherzer. All right, this is the one I'm kind of looking at here. So, got a lot of buying in this area here. Again, could get sub 300 or sub, what is that, 200? Sub 300. So, here's $300 right now. Could look forward to, gosh, that's got to be 200. Yeah, call it sub 200. Might be the ideal price longer term. But again, that trend is down. You're in an area of support and kind of at the bottom of the range where if you're buying right now, you might be okay. But again, rips are for selling. While for the time being, sub 200 would be a screaming buy on that one here. But this PSA 9 has been trading in kind of that 90 to 150 range. And I've been throwing out bids at 90 and finally caught one for a PSA 9. So I'm good on Max Scherzer. I'm happy with a mint example. And the raw version that I had that had a little ding that did not appear in the eBay pictures, I will give to Tommy because he's pretty excited about it. Zach Greinke, another likely Hall of Famer here. Again, picking up the sales a little bit here. This Bowman Chrome 2002 draft picks and prospects sitting around, looks like $400, $300. Let's go $300. Just yeah, $295. There it is. So here, apologize. Anyways, continues to grind a little bit lower. If you want the raw version, that can be had for sub $50 and probably going to look really, really good. If you want the 10, this is the PSA 9. If you want the 10, you're talking about closer to $1,000 for condition sensitivity. Garrett Cole is a player that compares favorably to these guys when they were 31. So we'll see how that works out. There's a long way to go. Therefore, his price is not going to be as elevated as the rest of those top tier guys, but he is starting to break out of his downtrend. Price is about as low as they've been, getting some volume picking up here. That is the update. It's a $40 card, whatever. I like the Topps Chrome where it looks like he's kind of throwing the ball at you. You can get some of those numbered refractors in raw form for sub $40. So these are low priced plays on Garrett Cole, but perhaps we'll see some more interest on his cards. Even though low dollar cards, as they start to get bumped up, then that'll raise the price of the high dollar cards. So even though that we're only looking at one version or two versions of these guys, they will for the most part kind of travel similarly, but on different time frames. If the high end starts moving, it'll take a little while, but the low end will start to kind of catch up as people trade down. So and vice versa. Bryce Harper, one of the bigger movers this week, we looked at that right at the opening, up about 20%, and he's right at the top of the range here. So I think that might be enough for the time being. I'm guessing, the Phillies start to do something. He does something in the playoffs. Yeah, you could see a breakout, but it's on lower and lower volume. Fewer and fewer people willing to pay for these prices here. So again, if you wait for that to settle down, might be a better time to buy. If you look at his screaming at the umpire or children in the stands, you can see that this got rejected in an area where there's been selling in the past. It is coming back down. And again, patience on Bryce Harper because he's super relevant right now. And yes, it should be a long-term target for you Hall of Fame collectors, but right now is likely not the time. And his Bowman Chrome Prospect Auto in a BGS 9.5 with a monster rip. Someone took it from $900 up to over $1,600. And hopefully that was not you. We don't do that. We like to buy where the clusters are. So leave it for the time being. So Bryce Harper cards. Yes, it's exciting. It's tempting. No, we've talked about him plenty over the past couple of years. That was your time. You'll get another time again. Right now is not that time overall. Jeremy Pena, same thing. All right. This was a card that I don't think it gets to sub 60 or anything like that. This is before the playoff hype and everything like that. But I think you do return to a level lower than where it is at now. A couple $100 for the Mega Box refractor. Wait. So all those guys that are front and center. No. Jordan Alvarez might be an exception here. The Sapphire getting a little bit of love. This is one we highlighted and said, what, this is about as low as it gets recently, and it's getting a little bit of love, but not nearly as much as some of these other guys here. So I think I always kind of figured the Sapphire were more of the higher end cards, that weren't numbered and autographed and all that kind of stuff, but I'm wrong. And so that's how it goes. I like the Sapphires, though. So not getting as much love as some of his other cards here. Still represents a decent opportunity, and you can still get that raw version for 50, 60 bucks or something like that. If you look at his Bowman Chrome Prospect Auto in the PSA 10, near the top of the range, and that is again, kind of relevant. It is a no-go for the time being. All right. So, some cards work, some cards don't. I would love to look at like every card they have, but there's just so many of them. So what do you do? If there's something you want to see, you let me know here and I'll do it. Juan Soto, just for the heck of it here, we had about a $120 price target, kind of in this range. Ultimately, it's in there. It's about 130, ticking up just a little bit here. So again, is there a near-term catalyst that rockets him back up to the top of the range? Not yet. As we head into the season and we talk about he's in the greatest shape of his life and he's ready for a bounce back year, and he's his Tatis is going to join him for most of the season, and Machado and whatever he ends up doing on that front when he's in the news cycle, then yes. But for now, it's like, yeah, probably not much is going to happen. Again, that what happened here? Why that gray line? I don't like the gray line. So, J-Rod, we're going to make a point here looking at 3 of his cards. This is the short print Chrome, came out at $2,000, sitting at $760 right now. So quite a bit of drop on these. So do not buy at the open. Looking at his Logo Fractor edition here. So again, comes out $2,000. Now it's sitting at $1,100, nearly cut in half, trending lower. And so longer term, we can just look at his SP when it came out. Got up to nearly $400 and has not done nothing but trend lower since then, cut in half. And so again, give it time, let more of these cards come on the market. Just your supply demand would say. More supply, the prices will go down, and just again, these prices wear off over time. So on those newer, fancier cards, just wait on those. So all right, football, Tom Brady. Continuing to travel lower. He's in the news, but for the wrong reasons. His team's not playing very well, and he's coming into this support zone here. So we did have kind of our, as our friend David Mills pointed out in the comments, he's like, that looks like a double top, and double top is 2 peaks, where the right peak is going to be a little bit lower than the left one, as selling comes in a bit quicker. And when you break this level here, you can look at the measurement and then kind of get your ultimate target price. So $15,000, high was around $25,000, ultimate target price about $5,000, and we're sitting at 8 right now, so we could see some bounces in this area here. But if you're a longer term collector, would like a really nice price, we could see something like $3,000 to $5,000 ultimately on this one. I don't know. It's getting very thin. It's only going to take one person to say, wow, 8,000 looks great, let me pay 10. And it could screw it all up. There's not a lot of volume on these things here, but that trend does remain down. So we'll see how that plays out. Aaron coming into an area of support as well. So a lot of buying in this area here. So $375 is the current price. Sub $350 would be probably a pretty decent bargain. We'll see how that goes. It's at least where you could start looking for him, I think. So, again, start looking at these guys a little bit more closely. Josh Allen, trend is up. Monster rip off the bottom of the range here, so you don't have to chase that. It's starting to come back in a little bit to a more realistic buy point in this 450 area here. So sitting at 535. So maybe a little bit lower here would be your number, but getting close to buying. And Joey B, so last week we had him at the very bottom of the range and said, you know what, maybe too much too fast, 2,100 down to 1,200. Let's see if we can't get a pop. We're getting a little bit of a pop. Rips are for selling, so let's see if we can't get to 1,800, 2,000. If you're trying to sell, that's not your price, so maybe you can get rid of it up in this area. That 2,100, 2,000. Call it 1,800, 2,000. So while it's in the downtrend, rips are for selling. He's playing really, really well. If he breaks out, then he becomes more of a buy the dip type character. But for now, sell the rips, but you don't sell right now. All right. Danny Marino. So not a lot of volume on this one. If you look at longer term, this goes back to 2017. 2019, 2020, and so I think here's your 2020. Yeah, the big mess, right? So 2020, and then 2021, 2022. And it hasn't done a whole lot since then. So you know what you're getting from Dan Marino, isotoner gloves, I think. So sitting at $330, grinding slightly lower. So when you're buying these higher end cards, the volatility isn't quite there. I mean, it is when everything else is. It's going to move with the rest of the market. But these absolute collapses from here, it's more of a slow grind down because what new information do we have from him? So all right, basketball, John Morant. off to a great start here. We had our consolidation breakdown, and now we have our uptrend here, so a little bit of meat on the bone. But he's in by the dip mode on this one. Luka Doncic, kind of a slight upward trend here. A lot more volume picking up here. This is his Prism Silver sitting at $2,000 or something like that. So lower grades obviously may be of interest, but yeah, he's well off of his highs here, and slightly grinding up, not an outperformer or anything like that. But if you've been looking for a Luka, this is kind of the time you look at it, manage appropriately. So buy like 5, and then you can peel off a couple here and there. I don't know. So Donovan Mitchell having a decent start here, bottom of the range, starting to get it ripped up. So the risk reward on this one looks a little bit better, and that lower price point I think is going to attract more people as well. Giannis doing what Giannis does, so he's got a nice start to the season, but coming off the top of his range, you have this level of support right around $1,000 for that Prism base, and this compression, buyers or sellers coming in quicker and quicker could lead to a breakdown at one point. So we'll see how that happens. That's kind of your line in the sand, that $1,000 area. So we'll see how that plays out. A breakout would be bullish, and what does he have to do to break out at this point? I mean, the dude, multiple time MVP, playing out of his playing very, very well here, and what more do people need? Apparently, they need more here. So $1,000 is your buy, but below that, maybe you do this on eBay ComC or something like that, where you can just list it and get rid of it quickly. I think maybe that's the way. But yeah, if you're buying these and shipping them around, then I suppose you're kind of stuck, I guess. So nice, we did it twice, Giannis. All right. Devin Booker off to a nice start. And again, like some of those young guys like Donovan Mitchell, bottom of the range starting to tick up just a little bit here. So it's a lower risk reward type play, whatever you think of the player. If he keeps it going, then I could see more money chasing in as people are hesitant on those $1,000, $2,000 cards. Maybe they're cool with $200, $300 or something like that. Jason Tatum, same thing, bottom of the range. A lot of consolidation is going to need a catalyst to bump him out here, but respecting the lower end of that range, could stay in the lower end of that range, but he's playing well. And if he continues to do so, could see a nice pop here. All right, hockey, Kaprizov, downtrend, but starting to break out just a little bit here. So the Wild got off to kind of a slow start, but Kaprizov didn't. He was scoring some goals, and so one of the more exciting players in the league. Not one of the youngest by any stretch there, so that is a concern. But he is popping out of his range just a little bit here. So we'll see what happens. It's just a steady uptrend. So I'm not looking for rocket back up to $600 or anything like that. But again, if you're looking for cards that aren't making new lows or anything like that, this is one of them here. Connor McDavid, bottom of the range, getting a rip. And 2,500 to 4,000 is kind of your range here. You're sitting at 3,100, kind of in the middle of that. So nothing to do right here. We like the bottom of the range. Now you're in the middle where there's not much to do on that one here. Again, what's the catalyst to bring them to the top of the range? In the near term. So, the card markets, economy, everything would have to start ripping where people feel more comfortable paying that price. So, again, pullbacks around 2,500, something like that, below 3,000. That is what you're looking for, Leandro Salt. All right, I'm going to show my hand here. So, I don't know what's going on here. So, I could draw a slight downtrend. I could draw a steep downtrend. I don't know, but it looks like he's respecting at least this slight downtrend, getting a rip off of that range here. He's been a terrific player for a while now, and what the heck? Maybe he should be worth a couple $1,000 or something like that. So he's at the bottom of the range and sets up pretty well for those guys that are a little bit higher priced. The lower price guys set up really, really well. And this is a higher priced one that looks pretty decent at least here. Alexander Ovechkin, kind of the same thing. Really good player, one of the best all time, scoring leader. So bottom of the range. So if you've been looking for that card, looks pretty good. Sid the Kid coming back towards the bottom of the range. That trend again slightly down for the most part here. So again, a lot of these cards, it's like, yeah, for now they look interesting, but it is kind of sell the rip mode. All right, see if I can just want to tighten up my screen here a little bit here. So a couple real world things that may have an effect on the card market overall. And so we are looking at inflation and GDP. Got a GDP report out this week. So it was a 3.5% or something like that. And most of that was in net exports. And so with the higher dollar, that's backwards looking, you could see that slow down a little bit. So the greatest report in the world, not so much, but positive growth. And coincidentally, right before midterm elections, it's not a party. Both sides do it. All right, this is how the game is played here. But a positive number, I think, is maybe gives people a little bit of confidence overall. We'll see what happens. But again, some games are being played with that number. GDP is a number that's easily messed with, and I'll talk about that sometime if you want. But it's a number that can be monkeyed with fairly easily. You think there was a little bit to that this time as well. They didn't want to show a third negative number before the midterms. So we'll see. But again, inflation continues to rise and GDP continues to rise, which is actually a favorable investing environment. So housing starts bottom of their range, ticking up just a little bit. This is one of the drags on GDP the past couple of quarters, and that's ticking up a little bit, respecting this. And so what we don't want to see is a breakdown in this number. So then 2007, 2008, that was a big problem. We saw a minor breakdown in 2020, but for the most part has respected it. And so when we're looking at those long-term charts of the S&P, it was respecting that midpoint as well. So it's like, all right, we're not ready to completely melt down and break down yet. And so things are bouncing where they need to. Gasoline as well. So, hey, gas prices are way lower. They're coming down. It's like, well, not so fast here. Here's this area of support. We're getting a healthy bounce off of that one, up about 5%, which could put some stress on the consumer. More money goes to gas, less money goes towards Juan Soto, I suppose, for the most part. Their dollar index, again, top of the range here, highlighting that it is coming off and respecting that pretty well. So again, we want to see that lower dollar to raise asset prices. Now, if you don't have a lot of money, you're raising the prices of food and energy, and that sucks. If you have a decent amount of money, then you would rather see your assets grow, and you don't care about the if you pay an extra $10-$20 at the gas pump, do you really care if you've made an extra couple tens or hundreds of $1,000s in your investment accounts? So there's the trade-off. It affects some more than most. Unfortunately, that's how it goes. Yields kind of backing off as well. There's a lot of different areas here where it can stop. So who knows, right? But is respecting this 4% area for the most part here. It is overbought. They're above the RSI is up in the 80s or 90s, overbought for like the first time in history. So it would make sense for this to take a little bit of a break. And again, if those yields come down, then people are able to, not that anybody bought like super recently, but then you could see some refinancing, just some pressure off of leveraged assets for the most part. Bitcoin at the bottom of its range and starting to tick up about 5% for the week here. So again, we want to see those risk assets start to move to get confidence going, and people spending their money here. You can look at this in the semiconductor index. Again, not advice, but if you go back to 2016 and 2020 and now, it's respected the bottom of this range, and we're getting a little bit of a lift there. So some of the more economically sensitive parts of the market, if they get going, that could be a good sign overall. And so I think that's what I've got for you. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, do all that kind of good stuff. Have a great rest of the weekend, and we will talk to you later. Bye.